When we get back, which we'll fight. I'll tell you what people are going to expect is they're not going to expect us to tinkle around the edge with the ACA. They're going to expect universal health care. A saying I always said is you lead with good policy and good politics will follow that. And the inverse of that is true. Bad policy will lead to bad politics. And I think Democrats got caught in the wilderness that our policies are popular, but for whatever reason, we didn't articulate it in a way that turned to good politics.
Former vice presidential nominee Tim Walz seems to be one of the few Democrats who understands that the party needs to deliver more for their voters if they want to get back into power. What an idea. During a conversation with Molly Jong-Fast, Walz said that people are going to expect universal health care, not tiny changes to the ACA once and ultimately if Democrats take charge again. He argued that passing policies that actually help people have made him popular and would do the same for the Democratic Party at large. Take a look.
Look, I'm way more popular than Trump here, not because they necessarily love me. It's because people are getting free lunch. And it's because family and medical leave is coming. And if I have more people insured in healthcare. And those are things like, I don't know if I like Walz or not, but I don't really have anything to, gripe about because they're delivering on these policies. And I think that's the thing that I am most focused on. And I would say this is where governors hold the key. Deliver against the onslaught of Trump, not just resisting him, but deliver policies that he can't deliver that are popular.
And that brings us to Tim Walz's self-criticism. While reflecting on the 2024 presidential campaign, he actually chided himself for playing into Republicans' distractions. Take a look.
How in God's name did the party of the working class lose the working class voters to this billionaire who's clueless? And again, I wish there was some grand scheme amongst these guys. This is all about tax cuts. And damn, if we didn't give them every other side issue, again, I will kick myself that I got sucked in. I bet you I spent 3 or 4 days, maybe longer, not clowning, but just hammering them over the eating dogs and cats because it was so ridiculous. And I took that hook, line, and sinker. We were talking about immigration at a critical part of the campaign, and it was hurtful and it pissed me off. And I was standing there to defend people, and it didn't do a damn bit of good electorally.
Now, while Tim Walz criticized himself for taking Republicans' bait, Molly Jong-Fast took issue with something else. Take a look.
Honestly, the one thing, I'm just saying this from you to me as friends who are right now recording this, is that I actually think what they did wrong with you was not let you do enough. Like, just you should have been out there all the time, 24/7. Because the thing is, like,
that would have come with its own problems, I would say. But no, but
who cares? I mean, if we learn anything from Trump or JD Vance, it's that it's much better to, say something, whatever, like stupid about the Vietnam War and keep going, stupid, or like say something, obviously.
I would say the same is true of the vice president, because I think what America started to see and didn't know, like somehow she was kind of quiet or whatever. She is dynamic, and she had this sense of charisma and presence.
Yes,
especially amongst young people.
I mean, Jake, there's a couple things here. Would have loved to seen Tim Walz unleashed on more of the campaign trail, but also this idea that if Democrats do things that help people, it could lead to electoral wins. What is this?
Yeah, so we're asking the live chat, interested in Walz 2028? I am a little bit, so watch the show live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern and be part of the show. But look, he got screwed. And so if you're on the left, you didn't really get to see him that much. And Molly was totally right. They buried him in a cave. And then if you were watching Young Turks at the time, I was like, he's your best asset. Even if Kamala Harris doesn't want to do interviews, for God's sake, get him out there and have him do interviews. He's populist. He passed all these bills in Minnesota. Those bills are super popular. You want to put out a popular message. This is not complicated. He's pretty good at it. So he got screwed by the Democrats not really letting him out there. But wait, it gets much worse. And the meanwhile, the Republicans were doing all of these super unfair attacks against him, Tampon Tim and all this stuff, right? And they made it seem like he wasn't a populist when he actually is. And so, but then the Kamala team would hold him back so he couldn't respond to those. So he just got Malachi Crunch. That's an old school reference, but it was a bit of a pincer move by the other side and his own side. And so I don't think anyone really got to see the real Tim Walz. And so almost, I mean, this is a funny way of putting it, but at Shop TYT, we had like, I don't know, 5, 6 Tim Walz shirts and maybe 1 Kamala Harris shirt, right? Because Tim Walz was an exciting one. He had passed those bills. He'd actually delivered. So the only thing I disagreed with him in that clip was that Kamala Harris was dynamic behind the scenes. If you say so, brother, but we need her to be dynamic in front of the scenes. But to the main point, guys. I actually had 2 main points. One is we ran on the wrong issues. That is very right. But it wasn't an accident. He made it seem like it was a little bit of an accident to some degree, like, oh, they got roped in by the eating cats and dogs stuff, right? But if he said, hey guys, I'm gonna go out there on the campaign trail and I'm gonna talk about how we're gonna increase taxes on corporations and go after these sons of bitch corporate CEOs, they wouldn't have let him do it. All right, all the consultants and advisors were massively pro-corporation, and the main message they went out with was 90 corporate CEOs signed a letter saying that they want Kamala Harris. I mean, it was just the very worst strategy. So that campaign would have never run the correct strategy. And then finally, the most important thing is, yes, but what should Democrats actually do, right? Not just messaging, but what do you do? Because your messaging at this point is useless. The Democratic Party has burned all of its goodwill. So the current leadership, if they said they were gonna do universal health care, there's no way in the world I would believe them. They have no credibility at all. Joe Biden said he was gonna do the public option, which is way, way, way lower than universal health care, and then he didn't even propose it. It was a joke. They lie to their own voters so much that no one believes them when they now say, oh yeah, now we'll help you, wink. Or our consultants come back and tell us that we're supposed to be angry at the Republicans' billionaire buddies. We talked about that last week because they did some focus group and every dumbass Democrat was on there talking about the billionaire buddies, right? But do you think that they would get money out of politics if they were in charge? There's a 0% chance they would do that. These corporate goons aren't gonna do that in the Democratic Party. Tim Walz might. That's why he's saying these things. When no one else is talking about universal health care, if you ask a normal establishment Democrat, they're like, oh, I mean, we would love to, and we want to tell the people that we're in favor of universal health care, okay? But not for another 30 or 40 years. Get the hell out of here. But he actually did some of these things in Minnesota, so I believe him when he says we should fight for universal health care, and that's the kind of candidate you need. Someone you actually believe and someone that's actually delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember the time I was most excited about the Harris campaign I was on with you all was when Tim Walz was named VP, because I thought at least that meant that there was some sort of unity that would take on legitimate progressive proposals that actually had steam and charisma and populism tied to it. But he was gagged during the campaign. His debate performance was pretty awful against JD Vance. I don't know how much of that is blaming him or whoever was, kind of like constraining everything he said and did. And and in terms of policy, I mean, basically the Democrats were super incrementalist in terms of what they would argue, and then talk down to people saying your life is so much better. Look, Ticketmaster, I've dealt with this one, or I'm going to deal with this one little fee in Ticketmaster. I don't even use Ticketmaster. Yeah. F Ticketmaster. So it's like, so you know what I mean? So it's totally. Kind of like, just be honest, and I just really want, I want someone to emerge from the Democratic Party who means what they say. And honestly, there is this huge problem, which is donor power is incoherent with what used to be the Democratic base. So that's why they're seen as elite, patronizing, pseudo liberals.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nothing. That's nothing. That is almost no one in this population.
Yeah. I mean, the debate thing, you could see the consequences of shuttering him away. In the run up to the debate, JD Vance was going on network to network to network, even adversarial networks, answering tough questions. He knew what was going to come up in that debate. He knew what gotcha questions they were going to throw at him, and he had experience answering them. You put Walz away in the basement for a couple months and then trot him out for the debate, and the guy's caught flat-footed over pretty simple questions about stuff they knew would come up. Part of that's also because the Democrats did not let either candidate really be their true selves. I'm with Cenk. I don't think Harris was secretly dynamic behind the scenes, but we know Walz was. We saw flashes of that when he was vying for that vice presidential nomination.
Yep.
When he wanted to be that spot, and he wasn't confined by the Democratic Party at the top or the campaign on what he said in media. We saw that shine, and that's why people were drawn to him. That's why people liked him. And then you have this list of accomplishments. Like, there's always an excuse for why they can't do this stuff. Oh, we're not in the majority. Oh, our majority's not big enough. Oh, our super majority's not big enough. There's always a reason why they can't do it, but it's ultimately an unwillingness that he has tried to do it or that he could try it if he were to run again. At some point, even if he fails, I want someone to at least try.
I mean, the Democrats are literally saying their best hope are Republicans who are okay with losing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I feel great.
Yeah, all right, last couple of things here to touch on the stuff that you guys said. See, we're honest. So we like Tim Walz, but that was a poor debate performance. I think Jordan's right about why, and I said the same thing when we were covering it live. He doesn't have enough practice because they wouldn't let him go out there. But even so, okay, that's on Tim Walz. You still should do better, okay? But the point that Jordan made, I don't want to gloss over it, and I hadn't really thought of it that way at all. I think it's a really great point. We were so excited when Tim Walz got picked, and Ramesh is right about that, because we'd seen him in action before he was selected, and he was really dynamic and populist and stuff. And then after he got picked, all of a sudden muzzled and uninteresting. And what was the difference? Then he was under the Democratic establishment umbrella, where they do super dumb things like they don't do interviews, they tell you how great corporations are, et cetera, and they don't let you be your real self. So that's why you saw the Tim Walz that you saw, and then look, if you want to know what's popular, it's not complicated. Like, so we have the populist plank on tyt.com. You can go and sign it there. You can go check it out. Now, why did we pick those issues? Because they're the most progressive issues, the most left-wing issues? No, those are things that, yes, the left agrees with. But as it turns out, so does the right. 2/3 of the country agrees on these 6 issues. And some of them are at 80%, 90%, et cetera. So if you wanted to get them done, they are not at all hard to get done. It's just that the Democrats keep choosing not to do them. And don't get me wrong, the Republicans are also choosing not to do them, right? Like, Trump was savvy enough to run on some of them, but is he doing them now? No, not at all. And so, look, but finally, to Ramesh's point about at least appearing to try, it makes a giant difference. Because when the Democrats got in, they were like parliamentarian, as if we live in a parliamentary system. And they're like, well, we can't do anything because of this all-powerful parliamentarian that no one's ever heard of, right? And she decides what can get filibustered and what can't, and that's why she's the most. Now, this week, today, we had it in the rundown today, the Republicans are gonna pass a $4.6 trillion tax cut, going almost all to the wealthy and to corporations. And well, they got a parliamentarian problem, just like the Democrats, right? They're like, no, we're going to unilaterally say that the 4.6 trillion is actually 0. We're just gonna say it. And then the parliamentarian can't do anything about it. So the mighty parliamentarian, it turns out, is irrelevant because you could just say that 4.6 trillion is 0. Okay, so, but what do people see? In that case, they're trying to do terrible things, corporate tax cuts, et cetera. But look at how hard they try, right? And then you turn to the Democrats, you're like, hey, can we get the bare minimum, like public option or paid family leave or $15 minimum wage? All these things you said you were definitely going to do, voting rights. And so you were definitely going to do them, and they're enormously popular. Can we get any of them? No, the parliamentarian, right? So no, you need a new party. And I don't mean a new party, not Democrats. You need people like Tim Walz and many others that are in the populist wing to finally win, to win the primary at the presidential level and take over the party and bring it back to what it's supposed to be for the average American and to represent all of us and to actually try. Because you'll be amazed at what you can get accomplished if you just try. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.